Hi, it's Alex Cosper for another studio chat in my recording studio for SacTV.com. And today I want to talk about how last week Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez came to Folsom. Folsom's kind of a small town just on the outskirts of Sacramento, of course. And they somehow were able to pull either 26,000 or 30,000 people. Those were the numbers reported. I don't know which is which, but that's the range of the crowd that showed up. And it was in a red district where the congressman is a Republican named Kevin Kiley. So they completely packed Folsom Lake College and did their fighting oligarchy tour. And I think that's important, even though I think Bernie Sanders has kind of burned out compared to what he was in 2016. I did see him in San Diego that year when he was running for president, and it was like the week of the California primary, like a few days before it, and it was weird because AP announced that weekend that Hillary had enough delegates to win right after I saw this thing. So it's bizarre that that was why a lot of people didn't show up to vote for the primary and Hillary won it. But it was neck and neck, and Bernie was putting up a good fight back in 2016. He ran again in 2020, but and he did better actually. But then Biden got together with a bunch of rivals and just said, "Hey, drop out, endorse me, and then you'll get something in return, like Buttigieg or whatever his name is, Buttigieg. I don't even know that clown, but he is a poser in that race, and he ended up being Secretary of Transportation just because he dropped out of the race and gave his delegates or whatever to Biden. So Biden wasn't popular at all. He was like number 4 or 5 on that list. And Bernie was number 1 going into the primaries, and it looked like Bernie was actually going to win the nomination back in 2020, but then, like I said, Biden pulled this big prank. Unpopular Biden, demented Biden who can't think straight, can't talk straight, forgets who he is sometimes on stage. He was able to do what the party bosses wanted him to do, I guess, which was to just steal the nomination by rounding up all the different rivals. There were like 10 people running in that race, and he basically had them all endorse him. And, he put together a fake coalition that actually worked, and it won. He beat Trump in the general election, although Trump denied it was a fair election, but there was never any evidence or proof that it was a rigged election. There are people who say that constantly all the time, but the evidence never came out. In fact, the people who said it was fake, like Fox News, ended up getting sued. So you're not supposed to lie about stuff like that. Anyway, I don't know if it'll do any good, the big crowd that showed up at Folsom. But it seems like what they're trying to do is just energize the Democratic base, get back to square one, instead of just pretending that anything's better than Trump and that's all they had to campaign on. That's why they lost. They had nothing. They were talking about nothing. Prices were high at the supermarket. They did nothing to bring the prices down. In fact, Jerome Powell, the Federal Reserve Chairman, he's supposed to be non-political, and he would just barely, raise interest rates. That's supposed to help, end inflation is keep raising interest rates so that it's harder to borrow money, which when you borrow money, you're putting all this phony free money back into the system, and then that creates inflation, and it devalues the dollar. But nothing was done about it. They kept saying, "Oh yeah, we're gonna raise interest rates just a little bit, and then he started cutting rates again. So that just didn't work. Prices stayed high at the supermarket, and then Trump comes in and he wins, and he promises to do something about high prices that are crunching consumers, high cost of living prices. And he turns around and he starts talking about these tariffs that nobody asked for. And it's as if he doesn't know anything about tariffs. He doesn't realize that they actually make prices go up. So a tariff is a tax on consumers. So if you put a tariff on China for imports coming into the United States, that means the consumer is paying that tax, that extra money. It's just crap, just a dumb idea, and it crashed the stock market like several times. And so you can call it the 2025 Trump market crash. And then he backed out of it real quick when he realized he was crashing the markets. And on one day, the market even rebounded incredibly, like the biggest rebound of all time or something like that. But then it started slipping back down again because he keeps this tariff scare going, this stupid thing that nobody wants, that the world is freaking out about. Do you want to pay extra high prices for everything? Not that much is manufactured in the United States anymore. And his goal is to bring manufacturers back to the United States because they all went to different countries where they could find cheap labor. That's what NAFTA was all about, so that the U.S. could use cheap labor from Mexico and Canada. And, that's what free trade is not having tariffs between nations, just letting imports come in without all the extra taxes put on the consumer. So anyway, that's really sad, that Trump is doing that. Some people say, well, you see, Trump is a deal maker. Now that's what Whitney Webb says. She's a great journalist, online journalist, and somewhat of an investigative journalist. That would be someone who actually interviews people in the know. She's always doing interviews, and she herself is doing interviews with prominent people. And I like her show a lot. I've learned a lot from her, but sometimes I know more than she does. Sometimes, and all of these people, it's true that way. Like Jimmy Dore is one of my favorite progressive comedians, but sometimes I know a lot more than he does about the environment and the oil industry, and he acts dumb about those things. And then I have to put comments on his YouTube thing to let him know, hey, man, you're way off when you're pumping Trump on some of this garbage that Trump is, he's hurting consumers. So anyway, AOC called Trump a criminal at the speech at Folsom, and she also accused him of rigging the stock market. I don't know if that's true, but he definitely was the reason why the stock market crashed in March and April with his dumb tariffs. Tariffs are dumb because the last time they were tried in America, like back in 1930, Herbert Hoover, who led us into the Great Depression, President Hoover, he instigated these tariffs, and all it did was make the Depression worse. So I don't know why Trump is always trying to say William McKinley is his favorite president. McKinley was president from 1897 to 1901, and McKinley was for tariffs before he became president. And he became unpopular because of those tariffs. And it was in the middle of a depression in the 1890s. And finally, when he became president, he realized that tariffs don't work. And so he didn't want to, on his last day of life before he was assassinated, he was talking about, uh, undoing tariffs, and he was against it. So I don't know why Trump uses McKinley as his source for why tariffs are good. Tariffs aren't good. I even wrote a song about it called "Terrible Tariffs Burn Consumers," and I'll include it not on this one, not on this video episode, because I have a different song for you to check out that I wrote, and that is going back to 1900, the McKinley era, and that song is called, well, I'll tell you in a minute, because I want to tell you one more thing about Trump, because this thing about Trump being a deal maker, no, he's not. Trump was a born rich business failure who filed bankruptcy 4 times, and he a lot of times was using other people's money, and all he did was show you how to lose. And then, he didn't really build his wealth with his Trump Hotel or any of that business, but he did build his wealth by getting TV contracts through CBS when he was host of Miss America, and then The Apprentice on NBC. And those gave him lucrative contracts, and he was able to use that money to run for president in 2016. He actually was still signed to that show in 2017 when he was sworn in as president, and that's a conflict of interest. Just like owning stocks that he has and running a company called DJT. DJT is the ticker symbol of his company called Truth Social, and that's a conflict of interest. I don't know how he's getting away with it. Maybe he won't someday. Maybe someday a law will come crashing down on him for that conflict of interest. You're not supposed to hold a high office and also run a company at the same time, and that's what Elon Musk is kind of doing. He runs Tesla and SpaceX and all this stuff, and he's gotten lots of government subsidies for these companies, and then he turns around and acts like he's cutting government waste, but he's really angering a lot of people. So both Trump and Elon Musk have low approval ratings at this time because of their mess-ups, because of their jerkiness, their aggressive jerkiness to try to just run their policies down people's throats without really going through Congress, which is what they're supposed to do, especially with tariffs. So anyway, one more thing about Trump. He wrote a book in 1987. No, he didn't. A book came out that said he was the author, and that book was called Art of the Deal. And that's why a lot of people think he's some deal maker, but no, he's not. All he understands is exploiting people, and Trump University defrauded a bunch of people, so he knows how to trick people. And he's really into himself. He's a narcissist, so he's not a deal maker in that sense. He's and The Art of the Deal, the book, that it was a New York Times bestseller in 1987, but it wasn't written by Trump. It was ghost written by a man named Tony Schwartz, who was a professional journalist who wrote for Newsweek and New York Times. And Trump hired him to write the book. And according to Schwartz, Trump didn't write any of it. Tony Schwartz wrote the entire book. And the publisher, Random House, confirmed that. They backed that up, that Trump did not write a single word of his book, The Art of the Deal. And I think it might be because he doesn't know how to read or write, because sometimes he gives that away, like he's dumb about reading the teleprompter, like how Biden was. And both of those clowns, Biden and Trump, finished near the bottom of their classes in college, but they both lied to the media and said they finished at the top. So, yeah, those guys don't understand what they're doing. They're both low-rated clowns. Okay, they'll go down in history as nothing. Although Trump might go down as a character, kind of a funny comedy guy, because he had those TV shows. And a lot of people were brainwashed by those TV shows because The Apprentice made it look like he was a successful businessman, even though he wasn't. He's like a bankrupt business failure. So anyway, I just wanted to point out Trump did not write that book, Art of the Deal. He doesn't know about deal making. Whitney Webb is a little off on that, but she is right on a lot of other things. So anyway, we'll get to my new song, which is Terrible Tariffs Burn Consumers, like on the next video, because this tariff thing's going to keep on going. Trump actually froze the tariff for like 90 days or something like that, so we'll see what his next move is. Probably just some more garbage that's going to wreck the economy. But anyway, this song that we're going to hear now, this is from the McKinley era. That's what the song is about. 1900 Electric. That's when electricity started to spread across America. That was the beginning of the modern age. And one thing McKinley was famous for was preserving the gold standard. So that turns out to be a line in the song. And something that a lot of people don't know, but The Wizard of Oz, the movie came out in 1939, but the book was written in 1900, and that's when McKinley was president. And if you look at the Wizard of Oz movie, the guy who plays the wizard, he looks like William McKinley. So I don't know if the original writer was basing the character, the wizard, on McKinley, but McKinley was president at the time. And there's all these allusions to him, like follow the yellow brick road. Well, he was preserving the gold standard, so yellow and gold are kind of the same. Anyway, keep some of that in mind as we listen to my song recorded for Sunsetrip. That's my recording project. The song is called 1900 Electric.
1900 Electric, the dawn of the modern age. Trolley cars were electric. History turns the page. No supermarkets or suburbia. Most people didn't drive cars, but you could see the city skyline at night just like a million stars. 1900 Victoria, the end of the Gilded Age. Electricity brought euphoria. Its mystery was the rage. Hydropower generators, underground rail and elevators to high-rise dreams. But no refrigerators, washers and dryers, radio or TV. Meet friends at the opera or in the family room. Sci-fi writers were popular, lost generation coming soon. Pipe organs at roller rinks, no speakers to blast the phonograph. Wireless was an experiment, but there was telephone and telegraph. Orchestras played to silent